Well, hello everybody. Nice to be here today. Everything that we're going to be going about today are things that were done largely through our own efforts of research and a little bit of trial and error too, because blockchain technology as a whole is very new, even though it's been along for a while, or at least the applications and how it's being used have changed over time. So what I'm going to be focusing on today with you guys is designing a meaningful user experience for crypto gamers. So without further ado, I am the Chief Marketing Advisor for B2Expand. I got my start with them largely because of my efforts in the esports space. So a lot of work has been established in just understanding the background of the gamer and what's important to them in their key values, but also understanding the needs of the crypto asset and crypto speculation community at the same time. So video gaming, it's an experience. The first thing I see, the first thing I hear, the things that are said or not said, all these elements, they tie into that experience of the game. Now, the way that you have these things play on top of each other will ultimately influence that positive or negative feedback response system within the individual. So it's important that your game has as much of those types of merits overlaying into each other as possible. So, like I said, it's going to be a tie-in on the usability and the emotion that is kind of read off of it, because it's a person interacting with a computer. So how often can you really get that joy, satisfaction, fear, pain, etc. from interacting with a computer? So we're really looking to try to capitalize on the sorts of things with the experience of that interaction that we can tie together between the two. Because when people hear the word blockchain, would they just go away from it? It's a video game. So a blockchain video game sounds kind of intimidating. So what we're looking to do here is first and foremost pleasant, if not a compelling experience. You know, it's got to be fun. That's why it's a video game, right? But the big thing about blockchain gaming is it is so new, it's an emerging market, so how do you design a game that is based on such newer experiences? Well, we unfortunately and fortunately have done a lot of the effort for you for understanding into the mind of the gamer, but also the crypto and asset speculator. So some of our discoveries: think back to when we were kids. Now, I don't know how many of you are the age range that you would have been playing with Pogs, but Pokemon cards, for sure, I would say. Now, there wasn't much tie-in, at least time-wise, when Pogs and Pokemon cards would, be interchangeable between the two. But in the case here, it's really that the Pokemon cards and Pogs could have this sort of connectivity where you can trade them intermingly across each other, and this user interface for the most part is gone. All of our games are digital. You're not going to have that same sort of experience where you're able to have that direct asset trade value, and a Pokemon card is a Pokemon card. Sure, it has a dollar value associated with it, and the same sort of deal with a Pog. But if I want to trade a Pog for a Pokemon card or a Pokemon card for a Pog, I should be able to. And dollars and cents is really what those unifying things will be later on. Now, we do have a good example of some of this sort of blockchain integration and this ownership capability here. CryptoKitties. We all know and love them, but right here we see that CryptoKitties are able to give back some of that cross-gaming experience with crypto zombies, because you can eat CryptoKitties, raise your army, right? So just think about it, a zombie kitten army. All right, I'm done thinking about a zombie kitten army. It's a little bit terrifying, that's it. Now, this all kind of leads into our game. So as mentioned earlier, Beyond the Void, that is our flagship, that is our game that we did an ICO on. And we came across a lot of challenges when we did this, because ultimately, it's a video game that is free to play and has a model that still is based on the crypto asset community. So the user interface needs to be based on this crypto asset marketplace exchange, whereas the game mechanics as a whole still need to be good. It's for the gamer, it's not for the crypto asset speculator as much, yet overall, these two things need to integrate within each other. So having your game mechanics and your game economy within this crypto asset interface is going to be incredibly important in order to have this sort of game that people are really just going to want to interact with and play on a long-term basis. So a common marketing vision between these two concepts, game mechanics, game economy, that's really your balance here that you're going to be looking to work from as you're going through your own user interface design solutions. So another thing that we feel needs to be valued is the game engine that you're building on. One of the best ones that we've found is using the decentralized applications on the web. Now, what we did is we built ours on Unity with Ethereum, and there's technical limitations within that process. Now, these weren't the sort of technical limitations that were thought about far enough in advance for how it could directly interact from a player perspective, but then on an economy level too. Because think, when it works that the fundamental design is based on Unity, you're just not going to have the same sort of capabilities if it's done through the web applications, where you're finding a lot more of those crypto games being done through now. So the important thing is to choose the right game engine, and we feel that when we were evaluating and going into the market with Beyond the Void, that right engine we felt was Unity. Does it have the same sort of impact that integration-wise would work with a DApp? Not necessarily the same, but it's kind of hard to play off with. So we created some golden rules of user experience that we feel will be very relevant for you as you choose to design your own games going on in the future. And it all comes down to having everything connected together. You're going to have your shop, you're going to have your other aspects within this ecosystem of gaming. So think of your game, think of your DApp as an ecosystem. It's not just the game, it's not just the store. How is everything going to be working together? So here is an idea that we have for you here. It's a mock-up of a game where it has an integration of 3 different games and a store, all connected together. We've got a mining game, a crafting game, a terraforming game, and this DApp decentralized store that ties all of these integrations together. So it's B2Expand's project and goal to build this as a gaming network. This is our new idea for a perspective of a user interface to make it seamless amongst the users. Right now, with Beyond the Void, the way that integration works is going to be through 2 separate functions. You've got your game on Unity, and then you have your DApp on a platform. So with them being in 2 separate places, it makes it a little bit different for that player to get that same sort of interactivity and connection level, which is why this type of ecosystem, this type of approach is going to end up being more worthwhile, since they're going to be able to go from the game to the shop and back and forth in a far more streamlined fashion. Think of your design for your audience. Your ICO backers ideally are your players. When you're making a game, you're not thinking you've got your players and then you've got your speculators and holders. You want to be thinking that your ICO backers are your players. And if you've seen some of the other presentations today, you've got an idea on the ways that companies are looking to kind of integrate these ideas within their concepts. And with us here, it might seem obvious that you want your ICO backers to be your players, but it's a basic crowdfunding rule that when you're developing this user experience, that your composition needs to not only be crypto traders, but the general gamer as well. That's where you're going to get your longevity of a platform. So a good game is going to go a lot more than just being a crypto game. And it's a tricky thing to kind of get that balance of the two, since we're really going into unknown territory here. So each modification that you make on the blockchain without channels leads to a transaction, and that transaction fee needs to be paid. So the input needs to build to that game experience, but at the same time, it can't cost them too much, because if you make it so that it costs too much money for these players to really get involved, then they're going to end up feeling that sort of limitation. You know, there's so many games out there like Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, for instance, where you're going to be almost getting to a cycle of a money dump, where in order to progress, you need to add more money in order to get yourself to that next level, that next plane of existence. So while that is something that you could include in some facsimile, you need to be careful with the amount of input that you have from these fueled transactions, because you don't want it to come off as a Ponzi scheme, which a lot of people already have that negative stigma around blockchain technology as is. So make sure that there's the value with all the actions that these players are having, and the big thing is having a way out. Make it so that these people can sell their assets back in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through community interactions or some other sort of facsimile through a player exchange. Now, as a developer, as a publisher, you need to make sure that the reward comes after cost. So make the player pay beforehand. They have to do that transaction fee. Think of the limitations if you were to not have them pay that transaction fee. That's going to end up adding on a lot on your own internal costs as a developer, and you want to make it so that they're able to always get some sort of reward, some sort of positive feedback mechanism from doing this. Don't give them rewards without compensation, because you don't want to go bankrupt. Don't give away your crypto coins. That's kind of what this is tying back into, because if we're applying a real world tangible value to these speculative assets in some way, shape, or form, then we can't give them away for free. Now, I don't want to say that this is common knowledge, but don't build a real-time game. We're on the blockchain here. There's mining time that needs to be taken into consideration. So it's not realistic to have the sorts of operations where it's going to be working seamlessly like that. Make it asynchronous. Players play independently from each other, but ultimately the way that they act and interact does influence each other. So another way that you could do this would be maybe through like a side chain or a channel. But those aren't really ready to be used in production just yet. Stay tuned. The technology is still being worked on, but it'll be happening sooner than you know, really. Code needs to be available for everyone. I think this is just kind of more of like a common ground thing. Have it so everyone can take in all of the different types of information that are available, and that way everyone is on the same level of playing ground. They're rewarded on their skill. They're not rewarded on the amount of money they're putting in. Keep the experience challenging. Crypto enthusiasts love to analyze rules, any data that's available, and when you're able to have these sorts of processes included, they're able to make their own forecasts, they're able to build their own strategy, and they're going to meet their objectives that way. Just a quick question. Anyone here use My Ether wallet? Raise your hands if anyone, yeah? All right, well, who read through all the terms of service and actually understood it all? Yeah, I mean, maybe more of you did than that, but hey, anyway, this information is essential because it's so easy to get into a situation where you're like locked in, and then players aren't going to be as apropos to take these sort of precautionary measures where they're gonna look through all these warnings on my Etherwallet. They get lost in the field where they don't have this password recovery form. You know, you have your keywords that you need to have saved, written down on a hard piece of paper somewhere, not in like some sort of password logbook. And it's important because these people could lose all of their Ether, all of their crypto asset speculations, and it's just because they forget a keyword somewhere. So write down your passwords. Try to make that experience more fun. That's really what it comes down to. But but wait, there's more. Building on our golden rules, I really hope that you look to try to include some of those to be making more gameplay-driven content, more so than a collection-driven content. And that's really what we're trying to get it back into. It's a game. Yeah, there's all of the fun things about the crypto and the assets and how, that skin that you get could be rare and worth a lot more down the line, but it's a game. You got to keep it a game. Having a great game designer on your team is going to be really important. And this user interface is cross-discipline. So your whole team needs to adapt to this industry, these standards, and make it so that together it all kind of integrates in this concise way. But to sum things up here, I just wanted to tie off with an event that my team is producing in Lyon, France. We're continuing the conversation of blockchain and gaming with the Blockchain Game Summit. It's going to be September 25th to 26th. Attendees are more than welcome. I think we can fit like 400 or 500 total, and we're going to be looking for speakers, sponsors, speculators, anything in that type of capacity. But this Blockchain Game Summit is going to look to kind of build on some of these fundamentals that I discussed here. We're going to be holding workshops where you'll be able to come in with your laptop, with your D app, and you'll be able to troubleshoot through some of your issues with accredited industry representatives in blockchain and gaming. So this Blockchain Game Summit hopefully will add to some of the other great blockchain events that you will kind of just see building across the industry. Because the way that we look at it is there is this saturation coming in of blockchain and gaming. So the way that we can unify all of our efforts together so that as a group we can have this type of gameplay where it's tied into the blockchain and having this decentralization, it really comes together from us doing it all as a team. So we want to make sure that you're able to be successful in these types of efforts, and that's one of the reasons why we are going to be putting on this Blockchain Game Summit, tying into the purest form gaming and blockchain together, not just one or the other. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you now.
Okay, just wait for the microphone. It's coming behind you. If you can say who you are and where you're from, remind us.
This is Shirley. I'm with Doggy, which is a discovery of game innovation. So we're a platform hosting crypto games only for now. Question is that Engine, you heard about Engine working with Unity, so they build a lot of tool sets to enable games to convert to crypto games. How are you different? What's your major differences?
So the way that we're working and using Unity for the integration with it, we have the games tied. We have Beyond the Void tied in on the blockchain, and the skins and assets within the Beyond the Void that are outside of the standard spectrum are all on the blockchain. So the players and users would go to our D-App web platform, acquire the skins, have them linked to their Ether wallet, and then within that account, it links to their Unity account through the D-App platform, and then they're getting their skins unlocked based on that sort of notion. So to make that more concise, they've got an email address that is tied to their DApp platform login, and that same email address is going to be tied to their identification on the blockchain, which would then take that same asset that they have purchased on the exchange, and then it becomes usable for them on Beyond the Void.
Sorry, continue question. Are you helping them building the smart contract?
I work in the marketing and advertising, so I am not the one that's doing the writing and building of the smart contracts, but B2Expand does have our own full house capability services for not only our own smart contracts, which we created for Beyond the Void, but we're able to offer ICO creation, white paper development services, coding, and the sort of development issues that people may come through. We're able to provide consultation or any of those types of development services through our team. I think we've got around 15 team members right now. Our home office is in France. I am not French.